She walked away from a figure business in her mid 40s. No backup plan, no permission slip, just 19 years of her life. And the terrifying realization that she built a cage out of cash flow. That's Michelle, fractional COO, business mentor, and the woman who chose chaos over comfort when the numbers looked perfect, but her soul was suffocating. This is Hot Mess Magic, where we don't celebrate the pivot, we expose what it actually cost. Today's conversation, it's not about how to scale. It's about why we stay, why we perform, and what happens when we finally admit that success without sustainability is just expensive self-betrayal. If you've ever looked at your life and thought, I built this, but for who? Keep listening, because Michelle's not here to inspire you. She's here to expose what you already know. I'm Michelle Burke. Let's get into it. Welcome, Michelle.
Welcome. Excited to share all the messy middles, messy now, messy future. I love it.
Yeah. So you are running a 7-figure business, cash flowing, profitable, successful by every metrics the world cares about. Walk me through the moment you realized you'd built a prison, not a business. What did success actually feel like when no one was watching?
That is an amazing question, and something that I definitely feel more people should be asking, not only themselves, but those around them, their loved ones. So for me, I didn't know that I had the capabilities to generate $1 million business and sustain it. That was not my goal. That I didn't even know that was in my future. So during the whole process, it was building capacity. It was really understanding what I was capable of, what my strengths are, what my zones of genius were. And that was all trial and error. I don't have a business background. I did not graduate high school. I came from poverty. So these were all the types of things of trying and failing and, coming from a good intention of trying to give back to an industry and to a community in a sustainable way. I had an organic, low toxic hair salon, and that was my first business. I really wanted to do that sort of impact, but in a different way. So when I did get to that, it was exciting, and I was extremely passionate about it to start, because it really came from my own health journey and from my own experience in the industry. And I wanted to pay that forward to the next generation and to the community and to the industry. And along the way, I felt really inspired to develop new skills and new challenges and to overcome those. And I had an amazing time, and I learned so much about myself and other people around me. But I would say probably 2 years prior to me exiting and selling, I started to have these intuition nudgings, these whispers in my head. And it was exactly at that time when I started to go outside of the industry in exploring different masterminds and different rooms and different people that were normalizing the level of performance that I was at, which I had been at the top of my industry and I wasn't seeing someone like me where I was at, not only locally, but also in the industry. So I started exploring elsewhere. And it was that pivotal moment where I was in a room with other 6-7-figure business owners and discovering my unique skill sets, owning my success, and then realizing, where do I go from here? How did I get to a spot that I didn't even know I could achieve? And now I'm here. Now, what do I do about it? What do I want to do? Do I want to keep it? Do I want to grow it? I had big plans, right? But at the end of the day, right around that 2-year mark prior to closing, so probably 3/4 of the way of being open in business for 8 years, it was, am I doing this for myself? Is this really the direction that I want? I was starting to accumulate more shoulds and have tos versus wants and desires. I was responsible to employees. I was an employer, brick and mortar, overheads, all the things, right? And those are things that you sign up for. And yes, I take them 100%. But at some point, you still need to make sure that your vision is aligning with your desires and where you want to go. And At that point, I was in my early 40s and I simply had different desires. I had different goals and I wanted a different pace. I was looking for deeper, not wider. And that is literally the opposite of what I had built.
Exactly. And, that's what we think of. Like, we think of the money going wider. Like, how can I expand wider? When in actuality, it's where can I add more depth? How can I grow? How can I expand upward instead of outward? And I love how you said, like, you were getting those intuitive nudges and you were listening to them, but you weren't fully listening to them. Because, like, that's something that I feel we're all guilty of.
Oh,
Because a lot of times it doesn't make sense. You're like, wait a second, I've got a 7-figure business. Why am I going to walk away from what I have built? Like, that doesn't logically in your brain make sense.
yeah, it was a cash cow. It was very easy for us to create revenue and generate. We were the top in our industry. We were doing things that people in our community had not seen before. We were taking the lead in these things. We had, goods and services that just were not available anywhere else. So we had a really great niche and a really great message and a really great team and culture. And I've always been the type of person where there is a point in my journey, and I have done this over and over in my life, where I have almost like woken up subconsciously and been like, who am I living my life for?
Mhm.
Is it for my employees? Is it for that relationship? Is it for that parent figure? Right. But is this really what I want deep down inside of me? Or am I dying inside? You know, if I continue down this path, is this going to diminish my flame inside of me that I need in order to continue growing? Because growth is super important for me. If I'm not growing, I feel like I'm dying. It's huge. It doesn't have to be these giant leaps, but it's like I have to be in an environment where I am expanded and I am, shown different perspectives. And, I actually crave that and I love that. And at that point in my business and in my industry, I wasn't seeing anyone else around me. So again, it's that thing of like, you are the accumulation of the people that you surround yourself with, right? Well, I wasn't seeing anyone that was at my level or above, or that was normalizing the standard of business and employer care, and even just the mindsets and the habits of personal development and low toxic organic type stuff that now had become a part of my life and a part of my journey and was really important to me. And I just wasn't seeing anyone else in that environment that was not only normalizing that, it was actually the opposite, but then also encouraging me to grow even more and stretch and expand in other ways that I didn't think. I just didn't have that. And so I started feeling, like you mentioned in the beginning, boxed in. It just started really feeling like, oh, there's just so much shoulds. And when that happens and I did not pay attention to my nudges, I was like, I'm busy, just kind of like, I hear it, but like, we're just going to shove that down a little bit. I got work to do. I've got other plans, right? These are my goals, right? But I didn't really realize that I needed to do a deeper dive into me and my personal desires at that stage in my life where I really wanted to go. I was always on top of my data and my operations and all the things that I loved, but I had neglected doing a deep dive into, is this still aligned with me? Is this still a desire of mine? Is this still the type of person that I want to serve? Is this the type of industry that I want to be in? Is this the type of work that I want to be doing? And at that point, because I had generated and accumulated and done a lot of new skills, 100% new. When I opened those businesses, I was 100% away from one-on-one client contact.
Mhm.
I was doing it through my employees and then through my clients. So I was 100% on the business back end, the operations, the financials, the payroll, the team building, all of that. And I had discovered that was where my zone of genius was. And that is not something that is normalized in that industry. Certainly nothing that was around me that was like, yeah, that's amazing. Like, let's do this, let's do that, like you find in great rooms and other masterminds and different things. And I just wasn't seeing that. And I was like, this is really what I love doing. I love inspiring other women to really take control over their finances, financial literacy, and just like demystify that, because I was able to distill that knowledge to like that creative visionary mind, because I am not bogged down with the business degree and a certain way that you need to do things, right? I'm very flexible in that approach. And I just wasn't seeing that. And then all of a sudden I was like, there, because I decided not to listen to my intuition, well, guess what happens? Now we have external things that start happening.
Yes, we do.
And those are the wake up calls that are
Mhm.
like, oh, well, you're not going to listen to me over here. Well, that's not going to change what actually needs to happen. Well, now I'm going to give you a little bit more of some external drives and some external things. And that started happening. And that was that. And thank God that happened. I'm so grateful for it. That allowed me to be like, okay, what is this showing me? What is this teaching me? And then, oh, I remember a year and a half ago when I started having these inclinations of like, what if this happens? Or what if this person leaves? Or what if this doesn't turn out the way I want to? Or let's paint that road. Or like, I'm feeling more resentment towards my business than I ever thought I would want. We're growing. Everything looks great on paper. We were winning awards. We were top 1%, all the things. But I had started being resentful towards my business and like frustrated and annoyed. And those are all indications you are not in alignment
Mhm.
with your soul's calling.
Oh, absolutely.
And that was coupled with those external things, which was just like, it's almost like hail on the window, right? Just like pinging you, just like, you need to wake up. You need to take some time to really assess, is this the journey that you want to continue to be on? Yes, you loved it in the beginning and you're passionate and you loved it so much, but it's okay to pivot. It's okay to move in a different direction. You're not going to start from zero. You've accumulated all these beautiful, wonderful skills. You've actually discovered more about yourself than you ever thought was possible. Now you can pay this forward to a new type of person, to a new business model, to someone who was like me 8, 10 years ago, that I would have loved to been able to have that experience so I could save myself in trial and error. And that was what started really letting me know the current industry and the current audience and the current business model was no longer aligned. And they were telling me, we don't, what you give us is not necessarily what we want or what we feel we need at the time. And they wanted, the industry wants to provide certain things. I was no longer a service provider. Those things interested me, but they were no longer a passion of mine.
Mhm.
So it was starting to get a little bit misaligned with what I was starting to be more passionate about. And then what are the needs of, the people around you? And so I had to make a decision. Do I continue with the shoulds and feeling like I need to people please and like shove my own desires down to just go through the motions of what I've built and done this and done that? And I went back and forth for a while, because it's not an easy decision. You are dealing with employees and, different financial futures and things of that nature. To the external world, the way that I exited seemed sudden, but really it wasn't, because I do take it very seriously, what I built, and then how's this going to pan out? And at the end of the day, I always remember this. At the end of the day, I did not ask permission to open my business. I do not have to ask permission to close it,
That-
period.
That's such a powerful statement right there.
Yeah. And I know so many women, in fact, I mentor many women who are seeking that external validation, so much so that they forget their inner voice. And I can say that because I was there. And I'm sure I'll get there
I've been there.
another time. Yeah. When you reach that next level, you are like, because you don't know what it is. There is a measure of like seeking that external, permission and different things when you are navigating something new. That's normal. There's no shame or blame or judgment in it. But what I want to empower other women to do is stop outsourcing 100% of who you are and what you actually want, even if it doesn't make sense to anyone but you. Because at the end of the day, you have to live your life. Not even your close best friend or your hubby or anyone else that you love, 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 love. At the end of the day, you have to fulfill your soul's purpose. And that will change over time. And yes, I do big pivots because that is something that I need to do, and I do it and I have the capacity for it. But I also encourage my clients to make sure that they're doing micro pivots, for those that can't, you know, stomach the big, big, big changes. And there's nothing wrong with that. Everyone has a different disposition. So I always teach people, just honor those micro pivots. It doesn't have to be blowing things up or suffering, right? It doesn't have to be black or white like that. You can start moving and shaking and pivoting into a direction that is more aligned with you instead of getting to the point where I was at because I neglected that. So these are things I can pay forward because they are from experience, and I'm continuing to develop those practices as well. But at the end of the day, I was like, I can't do this anymore. My soul is dying. Literally,
Yeah.
there was a come to Jesus moment, 2 a.m., on my knees, screaming into the dark. My poor husband, terrified. And it was just like, it was my soul just cracking open. And it was like, you cannot keep doing this to yourself
Mhm.
where you are shoving yourself down and diluting yourself for other people. And you have got to trust yourself. So self trust, self awareness, and take the next best step. And then that became the process of unwinding things and moving forward. And it was the best decision I have ever made in my entire life. And now I am able to step more fully into my purpose and align with those who I want to align with and I want to help, and that see and want what I have to offer them in a different environment, different business model, and just taking everything that I've accumulated from that first business, from when I was in corporate, from everything, common threads, and be able to pay that forward and actually know what my zone of genius is, own it, and then pay it forward to other people.
You've said just so many things here where like in my head, I'm going, yep, yep, been there, yep, I can relate to that. Like soul
Yeah.
dying, yep, that was me when I was teaching. Like teaching to the test was crushing my soul. And when we start to have these light bulb moments, when things start piecing together, we realize that it is a new identity that we have to
Mhm.
start shifting into. Sometimes shifting into that new identity can actually be harder than leaving the business or walking away from it is that we're walking away from. So when you left, who did you become? And more importantly, who did you stop being?
That's a beautiful question because that is the missing piece. Because you can't do all these great things and then be like, okay, how did you get to where you're now? And skip over what people call that gap or the messy middle.
Mhm.
So after I closed, sold, walked away, my husband and I decided that it was excruciatingly hard for me to not have anything lined up. And we made that commitment for a year, for 12 months, that I'm going to sit, I'm going to do a deep dive. I had to distill 19 years of who I was and all the different roles that I played in that 19 years and really figure out what I wanted to bring forward to the next phase of my life and my journey and my entrepreneurship. And to really figure out, also for me, I wanted to dig deep as far as why did I not listen to those intuition nudges?
Mhm.
Why do I need that smack in the face? Those sorts of things. Like, why did that happen to that specific type of thing? Because that's the type of person I am. I'm a naturally curious person, and I really like looking at the root cause of things. So I took a deep dive into personal development and I started detaching from doing, being the doer, getting things done, checking things off the list, just performing and meeting goals and setting goals and getting other people to set goals and then helping that, just like this ongoing hamster wheel. And it was like a screeching stop. I had multi locations, 20 plus employees, you know, $50,000 in payroll every single month. Like, and then to have it screech to a halt,
Mhm.
that it was painful
Yeah, I could see
and it
that.
was lonely and it was what I needed because I deliberately told myself almost every day for that whole year, I told myself, slow down,
Mhm.
be patient, because I'm a doer. I'm an ambitious, driven person, and I'm a doer. And I figure it out and I say yes and I just do it. Well, this was a different challenge for me, was to just slow down, look inward. Is this really what I want? And you have to, for me, it was like, you need time to distill all of this information and all of this stuff that you quote unquote did and who you were and the titles and the accolades and all those sorts of things. You have to figure out, you got to detach from that. And then you have to figure out what identity you want to use moving forward, which is, what did you love about that experience? What did you really like, you could talk forever about, or really, really start getting passionate about? Then I started really piecing that together. And it was a process. It doesn't come overnight for sure, because I'm interested in lasting change and moving forward in a sustainable pace. Because I built my first business in my mid 30s. I'm now in my mid 40s. I knew I didn't want that type of pace, that type of overhead, that type of business model. So I had to figure out what that looked like and what I wanted it to feel like, because I had also, to a measure, dishonored my feelings and hadn't paid attention to them. So I made a vow to myself that I was not going to do that moving forward. And I had to create strong, strong habits and practices around how I need to honor myself and my energy and my communication style and my processes. But in order to do that, you have to do a little bit of a deeper
Mhm.
dive.
Yeah.
And in order to create a habit, that takes time, right? And so I had to develop new habits and new ways of being and new ways to energetically meet myself and then those around me. Because I also didn't want, there's quite a few opportunities that came my way when I closed, and I deliberately said no to all of them, because I was like, I do not want to meet you yet at this level that I'm at, this identity, because I was still carrying some of the old identity. I was continually, day by day, shedding
Mhm.
more and more and more of the thoughts, the habits, the behaviors, the doing, the being attached to that old identity. And basically, that year was an identity death. And that's just as, you know, grieving and all the things that happen with normal death. You have that when you are doing an identity death. In 19 years, yeah,
Yeah, there's
you got to
before the
digest that a
grave,
little.
I've been there myself, and, where, letting go, like, when I was teaching, like,
Mhm.
letting go of that teacher
Yep,
identity, I got to the point where it's like, yes, I left the classroom full time, but I was still subbing. It's like I
yep,
needed to bring, starting my business, but my business wasn't generating money yet. It's like I gotta, keep a roof
yep,
over my head, food in my belly. So I was subbing, and I reached the point where it's like I don't want to get out of bed to do this, but I have to.
yep,
It finally took having a student steal money from me and the principal not doing anything about it for it to be like that light bulb moment as to, wait, you're doing this for money and you just had money taken from you.
yep. Those light bulb moments. Yeah, for
Exactly.
sure.
Like sometimes we need that light bulb moment to shake us and to be like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, wake up.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, either way, life is going to show you the path. Life,
Exactly. You
yeah,
know,
life is not fair either.
it's not, but a lot of times our
Mhm.
ego
Yep.
gets in the way. We're looking at, like I was doing, like the actual profit and the sustainability, chasing those
Mhm.
success markers that are actually keeping them trapped. What, in your opinion, do you feel are some of those success markers that especially women chase that are keeping them tracked? Because they're, posting what looks good on Instagram, but instead it's like bleeding them dry behind the scenes.
Yeah. So it's some habits and behaviors. I just did a free training last night where I talked about some of the blockers and the limiting beliefs that could come up for people. And a lot of people piped up and they were like, yeah, FOMO, comparison, shiny object syndrome. Like, there's so much out there that you quote unquote need to pay attention to. and all those things. And for me, it was, because I didn't know that I could have that capacity to generate those kind of things and do those kind of things, then I started becoming a little bit attached to like, who am I without this?
Yeah.
Right? I've never been interested in titles or things of that nature, but the doing and wrapping my identity around accomplishing something was another story, right? So also too, what I see a lot of women is not only do they seek too much external validation and external permission without checking in with themselves,
Mhm.
and then they blame the external stuff
Yes.
or for distracting them or burning them out. And I'm like, it's up to you to take that in or not to take that in. So if you are burning out and you're doing that, then that just means you need a deeper level of self-trust and self-awareness. And that just means you need to drop into a different level of personal development. You need to really take a hard look and audit, your time, your energy, who you are around, who you're taking in. And I actually encourage my clients, and even at the masterclass the other day, was put your blinders on. You know, just, you can't compare yourself, whether it's pricing an offer or doing this or doing that. You cannot compare yourself to someone else because you just don't know how their business is operating. You don't know what their goals are. You don't know what's happening behind the scenes. So you kind of have to put some blinders on and really figure out what you want to accomplish in your business and then start there instead of that, chasing that validation or chasing whatever metric you're looking for. Just understand what is a basic good business metric to follow that can apply to any business, and then couple it with your own goals and then the speed that you want and the timeline that you want, your phase of life, and just kind of map that out. And that is very custom and unique to you. And you don't have to ask anyone permission to live your life. But I see far too many women outsourcing that, getting into all the masterminds and all the rooms. And these are great people and these are great things. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's your responsibility to implement it and to follow it through and to pick and choose what works for you at that moment in time. That's all great information, but you got to have enough self-awareness and discernment and discipline to be like, that's great, but not for me and not at this time. So that's when I talk about like the blinders and like, but you can't have those blinders if you don't really drop into what it is that you actually want to do and what's aligned to you right now. And that should be a semi-regular process, whether it's monthly or whether it's, every 3 months, making sure that you still continue to be aligned and you're not distracted because it's easy. It's super, super
Totally.
easy. Everyone does. So you have to create an intentional practice and habit around like, I'm feeling a certain kind of way. Okay, that's an indicator. So self-awareness of like, oh, I got to drop in. I got to figure out, why am I getting frustrated or burned out? Or like, why am I always chasing this? Oh, it's because I need some more clarity in this, or I'm not feeling aligned with this. And I need to just be okay with that and start shifting in another direction. But you are going to be able to be swayed by all the different things if you don't know really where you are going inside. And that's a you question, right? And that is, you got to look yourself in the face and hold yourself accountable to you,
Yeah.
you know?
It's having that tough conversation with yourself, and sometimes
Mhm.
getting real raw and honest with yourself is harder than getting a real raw and honest with, anyone else.
Yep.
Because we
Oh, yeah. Yep. Super easy to be like, no, I know what you're doing. I know how to fix it, blah, blah, blah. That's, you got to make sure that that's not coming from a place of ego or also externally validating yourself. But you have to do a practice of checking into yourself and also give yourself permission that those things will change over time and almost come to expect that.
Yeah.
And that was another thing that I learned in that first business through that trial and error was, yeah, your needs, wants, desires are going to shift and change as you gain new capacities,
Yep.
as you gain new growth. Of course, you are going to start changing into a different person because guess what? That's what you're trying to do.
Mhm.
You're trying to grow. So, like putting those pieces together and being like, oh, yeah, this is normal for me to now want something different and want to go in a different direction and want to expand in this over here. Like, just honor that flow. And then also, if you have trouble with strategy or implementation of that, then get some help around it, right? But then you're seeking specific niche help
Mhm.
for those areas that you struggle with instead of just outsourcing everything.
Everything. Exactly. And this takes me into your reframe of self sabotage, which I love because I'm a self sabotager at heart. I think we all are, as
Mhm.
to how most people think self sabotage is the enemy. But as to how the thing we need to fix or overcome, what if it's not? What if it's actually protection or intelligence or a message we're too afraid to hear? And
Mhm.
it's like, that's what you're saying here. It's like, put those blinders on because the thing that you're not doing, there's a reason why you're sabotaging.
Yes. Yeah. And it's also linked to your upper limit. We've all heard that term before, but when you start kind of growing, you are reaching an upper limit of your current capacity because you're continuing to grow. So now you're stretching, and stretching is not super fun,
Nope.
you know? So, have you ever foam rolled when you're sore? Well, you're stretching, it's necessary, you're growing, right? It's the same concept when you're doing that mentally, emotionally, and you just got to acknowledge that process and then have that discernment and that practice around asking yourself, okay, what's coming up? Is it me just, giving up or, quitting too soon? Or what is the real reason this is? And if I'm hitting an upper limit, what does that look like? And how can I get past that? And how can I stretch myself instead of breaking myself to be able to hold that next level? What does that look like? What kind of routines and practices and habits can I use now to support myself in this stretch phase as I move to this? Because once you start doing that and having that discernment, when you are continuing to grow, then you will be able to start seeing some of those markers as you continue to grow to more and more and more and more capacity, right? And believing your capacity over time because you have a practice and a habit around it. And then those practices and habits too don't have to be written in stone. They can look like whatever, but give yourself some freedom and flexibility to really honor where you're at right now. And then also having some strategy to get to where you want to go. So I like to say it's a good mix of intuition and implementation, because there's a lot of, dreamers and visionaries. And I certainly am one of those as well. But then I also have a unique ability to then put it into action with actual implementation. And I know that some people don't have both sides of those coin. So make sure, again, the self awareness of where you need to fill in the gaps yourself to get to that next level. And then that becomes an intentional and strategic way that then you're seeking that external, not permission, but external help and support to fill in those gaps that you have instead of, just a bucket in that. But those are some of the things that I've been seeing. Those are some of the things that I've done myself. And also stop telling yourself some of these stories
Mhm.
of, I'm not smart enough. I'm not able to do this. Well, this person has done it. This person has. You are outsourcing yourself
Yep.
and your capacity. Like, start developing a self trust for yourself. A lot of women we just naturally are outsourcing all of our energy, all of our everything without fully checking in with ourselves. So that's one of the number one things that a lot of people ask me. And that's a simple first place to start, which is start creating a self awareness. Ask yourself, what are you excited about? What do you love doing? What could you talk about forever? And it doesn't have to be business related. Those two things may not align. Maybe you are great in this area, business entrepreneur, and the type of business that you do and the work that you do doesn't and shouldn't fill all of your cups. You know, do you like riding bikes? Do you like running? Do you like painting? Do you like dancing? Like, get curious
Mhm.
about what excites you. You are a full, whole bodied person. You don't just have one friend that fills all your needs, right?
Yeah.
You've got a friend that you can talk deep, deep, deep. You've got a friend you can talk business and numbers. You've got a friend you can talk about fashion and fun, or someone that you just go running with. Like, give yourself that permission to fill your cup in a lot of different ways and stop putting so much pressure on yourself to have this thing, whether it's your business or your relationships or your friendships, be everything and all to you. That's discounting all the facets of who you are. So again, give yourself permission instead of trying to seek permission from others, or just being like, ooh, that looks like fun. If that really does interest you, go ahead, but don't do it just because someone else is looking or seeing or doing that sort of way, because success takes all different facets.
Absolutely. So would you say that the first non-negotiable that a woman needs to claim is giving themselves permission?
Yes, developing a habit around trusting themselves and understanding what they really want and desire. And it doesn't have to make sense, and giving themselves permission that, yeah, it doesn't have to make sense.
I love it because it's not going to make sense. And we sit there and we try to make sense of it and it just stresses us out.
Yeah. Because then, yeah. And then guess what? 2 weeks, 2 months, everything's different.
Yeah.
And now you're like, you've tried to get so boxed in over here, and then, oh, there's no room for life and things ebbing and flowing. I mean, we have seasons for a reason, right?
Exactly. Michelle, is there anything else you would like to share with the audience?
The biggest thing that I think women need to hear is that they are capable. You are capable. You are ready. If not now, when? And action is going to give you confidence. You can't wait for confidence in order to take action. You got to take action before you're ready. That will give you confidence, and it will help you see the steps as they come up. Just put this out of your head. You do not need all the steps lined up in order for you to start something and be successful. That is a fallacy. Just start moving. And that's with anything. If you're feeling low energy or anything, just start moving. In your business, just start moving. And the path will show itself. Action equals confidence, not the other way around.
I love that. So here's what Michelle has just exposed, that movement is what is going to take us to that next level. That success without sustainability is just expensive self-betrayal. That our self-trust is the number one thing within business. And it's not going to make sense. It's not supposed to make sense. If that landed like you've just been punched in the gut, like good, like it's hitting home, something within you has been activated, because you're not going crazy for wanting more than metrics. Okay, you're not weak for walking away from something that looks perfect on paper but is suffocating you in real life. You're not insane for doing something that everyone else says is insane to do. And that pivot, that move that you're making, it might not be pretty. 99% of the time, it isn't pretty. It's not the highlight reel that you're showing. It should be what you're showing so that we can start normalizing it. But it's yours, and you don't need to ask for permission. You need the courage to trust that free fall might actually be the thing that saves you. So if you're in a space that feels stuck, overwhelmed, or ready to burn it down and build something real, Michelle, do you have something for them?
Yeah. So a great way to connect with me, I'm super active on my Instagram. So that's Ops and Growth Mentor. So OPS and Growth Mentor, Michelle Ghassemi. And there I'm starting to do monthly free trainings around metrics and around mindset. Because I did a free training in a private community, and overwhelmingly all of the entrepreneurs that were 6, 7+ figures, they all were saying things like, I've never been taught this before. This is so important. I just don't know this. So that alerted me to offer some of this to the public, which is training around your numbers, your operations, your data, and demystifying it in a way that I'm able to, and really just giving you a few key metrics to focus on to determine the health of your business. So catch me over there, Ops and Growth Mentor. I'm always in my DMs. Have a conversation with me. I also have 30-minute biz assessment calls. So those are free 30-minute biz assessment calls. If you want something in particular for me to look at, those are booked. All of those things are booked in links in my Instagram as well. And I'm happy to help answer any questions, any takeaways that you had. I'm here to be your hype girl because I've been there and I have done decades of personal development and continue to do. So if you're feeling it, I probably felt it too, or am feeling it currently. So if you need some of that business bestie or someone to give you a little bit of mentorship or a kick in the pants, I'm here for you. And I do it with love and I do it from my experience in life. So it's coming from a place of beautiful intent for sure.
Yes, and having been in spaces with you, I can speak from personal experience that yes, it does come from a place of love, intent, and it's going to make you think. It's going to help you shift the needle. So, we're going to include all that in the show notes. And if this episode resonated with you, do me a favor, share it, tag it with someone who needs to hear this. Because I can guarantee you, if you are an entrepreneur, if you are someone in business, you have at least 5 people who are going through your head right now who need to hear this. So share it with them or leave a review, because the woman who's performing perfection while dying inside, she's waiting for permission to stop. And Michelle just gave it to her. So be the one to share that gift and give her that permission.
Absolutely. I've loved chatting and pouring into your audience. And I hope that this message resonates with at least one woman who's just tired of disowning themselves and wants to live a more full life.
Love it. I'm Michelle Burke, and this is Hot Mess Magic. The mess isn't shameful, it's sacred. And your pivot, it's already happening. The question is whether you're going to honor it or keep pretending. Subscribe, listen, and rise.